guys, this is Brittany and Xavier. Welcome back to my channel. We are currently driving back from the Rise Festival in Las Vegas. So I thought because I have a few hours in the car, I would spend time and answer the questions that you guys submitted originally from Fashion Week. Kind of clarify some of the confusion that was around why I go, how long we're there for, just all those different questions. I'm also starting the YouTube giveaways again. I had a really good response when we did those for 2 weeks in a row, so we're gonna start that up again. All the info to enter is in the description. There will be a link that you have to follow all the instructions, and you'll be contacted if you win. Fashion Month is basically when the designers show next season's collection on the runway. Let's say you're at September Fashion Week, they're showing the spring collection. And this is usually for buyers to come and preview the collections to see what they want to buy for next season. Also, the editors are there to cover the trends for the magazines for next season, and digital creators are there as well to cover for their channels. The US-based brands are shown in New York, well, mainly in US. Sometimes a Parisian brand can show in New York, but for the most part, Milan-based houses show in Milan, and same with Paris houses show in Paris. I go to New York Fashion Week, which is the kickoff of Fashion Month. It goes London. I've never done London before. I go home to LA during that time. Then it goes Milan and Paris. I've done Milan a few seasons. Paris I did before I ever went to Milan because I didn't know if I should do Milan or not, but I really have fun at Milan. I want to continue doing that as well. Yeah, the whole process is about a month. It's in September and February. And there's also couture twice a year in January and July. We've done couture one season, and considering if we'll do it again for January, just because it's a lot of travel before it goes January couture, you come back, then you go to New York, I come back, and then Milan and Paris. So it's a lot right after the holidays, all that. So we have to decide if we're gonna do couture this season. There's also men's fashion month, which, will you ever do that? We'll never do men's. It would just be way... What?
I wouldn't be able to fit into the sample sizes.
Yes, you would.
I'm like, do you have a 38?
I think that is a sample, isn't it?
No, that's a women's. I don't know. I'm a 32. So.
I wear a size 42 men's blazer, so I'm definitely not a sample size. So we'll jump right into the questions now.
Who can get invited to shows, and what is the process?
To get invited to a fashion show, you need to have some kind of relationship with either the designer or the PR that does the invitations. Typically, they invite people or outlets that are covering whether the style, the designer. It's really, they invite you for coverage, but also there's clients that buy a lot of product are invited, friends of the designer. So there's different aspects of ways to be invited, but most commonly is for media coverage.
What is your schedule like?
My schedule is usually pretty packed during Milan and Paris Fashion Week. Fashion Month happens in February and September of every year. So it's definitely a very busy travel month for us, and we always have to prep probably a month in advance. We're figuring out our flights, our hotels, which shows I'm going to attend. My schedule is usually pretty packed, but this season especially, I really pared it down to only wanting to attend shows that are my style and brands that fit with my brand. I feel like you have to have those priorities, or everyone wants you to be everywhere and it can really run you down. So just really making a priority kept us pretty sane this last season, and I feel like it was really fun because I wasn't overly run down, or usually every fashion month I get sick by the end, and I feel like I was fine. How did you feel like it went?
I thought it went well. We weren't as stressed, and we didn't fight as much.
Yeah, so that's a good sign.
Are you paid to attend shows?
For the most part, no. I definitely am paid to attend certain events and create content around. And if you notice in Milan, I did a beauty job with a show, but it wasn't technically on the fashion side, it was on the beauty side. I mean, we did quite a bit of jobs this season. The season alone was crazy, but a lot of it had to do with location specific. So I did a lot of jobs in New York. It wasn't maybe for an exact show, but it was for a brand that was wanting more visibility there. And same with Paris and Milan. there wasn't specific shows that I was saying, oh, I won't go to unless I'm paid. It's never going to be like that for me, just because I love doing what I do so much, and it's never going to get to the point where I won't go to a show unless I'm paid. Obviously, this is what I do for an income and our full-time career. So we do want to make money while we're gone. That's, you know, a huge incentive of us working together and traveling together. I mean, you can go to my feed and see which jobs. I always put ad in the ones that I ever say ad in my account are I'm being paid money to post that. But also, they're only brands that I already love and already use. Posting an ad doesn't mean that it's not something I like. And I think there's a really negative connotation around getting paid for posts. For me, it's being paid for the time that it takes to create. It's a lot of work. I don't show a lot of the behind the scenes that goes into the planning and the concepts. Yeah, it's a time, and my time is money. So we definitely netted more money than we spent for Fashion Month. But in the beginning, it wasn't like that for me. In the beginning, it was a huge investment. I'm really glad I did make that investment when we first started, because I do feel like it helped me get to where I am today.
What was your first fashion week like?
My first fashion week was New York. I didn't do Milan or Paris when I first started out. I didn't even know how to. September 2015 was my very first New York Fashion Week. I only went because I was nominated for a Blog Lovin' Award. Otherwise, I honestly don't think I would have gone, because I didn't really know how Fashion Week worked. And they were actually paying for my flight and hotel to go to the awards because I was a nominee. So that made me think, oh, I guess I could try to figure out how to go to shows or figure out what events I need to go to. But I was so clueless when I first started, and it took a lot of, I would say, networking, hustle, and research to figure it out. And you can definitely figure it out if you're really committed to it. But yeah, it's a lot. And my first fashion week was, I don't know, a lot of downtime.
Yeah, how many shows did you go to?
I don't know. I think I went to maybe like 3 shows. I remember I went to BCBG when they were still showing in New York. I went to a few shows like that, but didn't really know what events to go to. I was super clueless with it. I had a lot of fun because I met a lot of people, and I knew I wanted to do it again next season and figure it out more. Anthony actually didn't come with me. My friend Jenna came with me, and she was like, this is so overwhelming. I don't know what is happening. It was kind of a lot because I was just going to anything I got invited to. But the next season, that February, Anthony came with me, and we tried to figure out just to be a little bit more strategic about it, because at that point I was paying for my own flight, paying for my own hotel, wanted to make it worth it and figure out which brands I needed to meet. And at that point I had also had a manager, so they had helped me network a little bit more as well. I feel like that helped with the relationships, but a lot of it was on my own, figuring it out and networking.
How do you change looks from show to show so quickly?
I think New York was the time that I had most of the quick changes, but for the most part, I feel like it wasn't terrible with the shows being so back to back. But during New York, we had a car, Volvo hooked it up with a car for the week, so I was able to plan my outfits the night before. If I had a close change or the show was too far away to come back to the hotel, I would pack the next look in the car and just change in the car. And the same with Milan. I did actually have a few changes in Milan that I had to do back to back. In Milan, there was so much traffic, so to go back to the hotel didn't even make sense, even if I did have enough time. So I would just change in the car and go to the next. A lot of it is just really being prepared in advance and planning ahead.
What is the most exhausting part of Fashion Week for you? Your spouse.
What? I think it's always having a schedule. I get my schedule the night before planned out, and you know, I do have a lot of meetings in between, so maybe I'm not doing every show. There's a lot of shows on the calendar, but obviously I only go to the ones that fit me and the ones that I want to cover. I do tend to schedule meetings and I like to have that FaceTime when I'm in, especially when I'm in Milan or Paris and I'm not there all the time. I really like to make sure I'm being the most productive. We're also shooting we have to prioritize the jobs to make sure I hit all my deadlines, and also being creative still, even though you're tired and you're a little bit low on sleep. Really just trying to keep the creativity up and the energy going, eating healthy.
But you're going like
nonstop each day, even though
you have something on the schedule every day for like 14 days.
Yeah, it's not like you can just decide to sleep in and just do Netflix all day on a Saturday. It was like each weekend didn't actually feel like a weekend because we were going so much. Yeah, towards the end, you're just like, I need a break. Like, I need to sit on my couch, do laundry. I just need to not be anywhere, not tell anyone that I'm going to meet with them at a certain time. It's just a lot to keep on a constant time schedule for that long. I mean, and I did go home for London. I didn't even do London, but I can't even imagine doing the whole, you know, New York, London, and Milan, like having zero time. It really did help me going home after New York and having a few days before we went into Milan and Paris.
How do you and Anthony plan couple time?
During Fashion Month, our anniversary every year falls on September 7th, and that's usually during New York. So usually every year we haven't celebrated our anniversary when it happens because there's something happening. I don't know, I feel like a few nights made time for it.
I mean, we do dinners sometimes, like a few dinner here or there while we're, you know, we have some downtime. But usually during Fashion Month, we're like, okay, let's do a couple's day, you know?
Yeah.
Just do it after.
It's more like at night, like we'll not go to dinner with our friends and just have dinner together and not talk about work. Like, I don't want to stay at dinner half the time during Fashion Month and talk about my schedule for the next day, or, you know, be brainstorming all the time. Like, it's definitely my job, but I need to have some separation. I need to have a life outside of fashion and my work. So we do try to keep that pretty balanced. In Paris, we got up extra early and had coffee together, read the news. We just talked about, you know, whatever. There's so many things beyond what our job, but we need to keep it in perspective so we don't lose sight of, you know, the things that do matter outside of working together too.
Where does Jadyn go?
So Jadyn stays at home when we're gone, and I like to keep her schedule as same as possible from when we're home to when we're traveling, so she doesn't feel the change as much. Originally, one of my really good friends was almost like her nanny. She would come over and stay at our place when we were gone, take her to all her regular events. She has cheerleading, tutoring, art. She has a pretty busy schedule, especially for 7th grade. And she moved to Nashville recently. So my mom, she was working in a medical office, and we hired her recently. So she quit her full-time job and will now be babysitting Jadyn for whenever we travel, which is really nice. So this Fashion Month was Jadyn's first time having my mom be almost like her nanny in a way when we're gone too. That was really helpful. And also Jadyn's schedule can stay exactly the same and doesn't feel, you know, the feeling of us being gone if then I have to put her in daycare and her schedule has to change a lot. So yeah, I've missed her the most, but we definitely FaceTime a lot and we're texting a lot. I also have to set my alarm for like 5 a.m. when I'm in Milan and Paris. That way I can talk to her before she goes to bed in LA. But it's just nice because I do like to keep that consistent talking every night when we're gone. But it sure is nice to be back home and back on the same time zone, because it really is hard to always wake up super early to talk. And then sometimes I'd want to text her and she'd be asleep for the night. So I really like being on the same time zone again. It's nice being home.
How far in advance are things planned?
It's hard because August, all of Europe goes on holiday, so a lot of the fashion houses are closed down. But I would say beginning of August, we have a team meeting with my manager, my assistant Marie, and I also have a team in Europe who helps with my calendaring for all Fashion Month in Europe. We all touch base and figure out which jobs we have coming up, which pitches they're going to be doing. I go down the list of the calendar and know these are the ones I want to request, these are the ones that don't fit my style. So we're all on the same page before requests go out. I feel like just having the same goal throughout, so everyone's on the same page and we know what the goal for the months are. So I feel like that happens beginning of August, but then again, like towards the end of August, when everyone comes back from holiday and all the requests are starting to go out as well.
How to attend as a micro-influencer?
I definitely don't think that affects you as far as your following size. It's definitely more about the relationship with the brand and the content you create. As far as, does your content also fit the style of the brand, what they're trying to convey as well?
It's more than just what, you know, your follower count is. You really have to, like you said, build the relationship, be a perfect fit for the brand. You can have 10 million followers, but if your style is,
you can be doing, you know,
funky or whatever,
beauty tutorials, and they're not looking for someone who does tutorials to attend their show. So it really doesn't matter about the following. It really matters about your branding. Look at the clothes that you're wearing, or look at the brands that you love, and target those specific ones to figure out, who's the PR, who's the person that I need to know, ask for a meeting, or, start tagging their products and show you're a fan of the brand, because it's hard if they don't know who you are and then they're not seeing that you're actually a fan of the brand. You just have to be a little bit strategic with it and put yourself in the brand's position and think about what they would want if you were doing the invites and you were, the brand.
Make sure the style matches your style and create great content, also network and, do some digging. You can't just post a photo, tag the brand and think that, they're going to see you. Fashion Week play in propelling your career.
I really think Fashion Week and Fashion Month has helped tremendously in my career, because those relationships that I've created from being there and having those meetings, having those FaceTime, I feel like it helped elevate my brand, but also it's led to jobs. I feel like looking back from when we first started to now, just the progress and also how the income has gone up from, I can see specifically which jobs came from, certain relationships that I met. I really think that has been a huge, huge value for me. Also, because fashion is always going to be my first vertical, and I always want you guys to come to my page and know that fashion is my strong point. When I was really concerned, like if I wanted to do Fashion Week still, I don't look at the girls that I follow who don't attend Fashion Week. I don't look at them as an authority in fashion, if that makes sense. And I was really considering, like, if I wanted to invest and do this in the very beginning, I knew that it was important for me because I wanted to be an authority in fashion. I wanted you guys to come to my page and know what trends were going to be there for next season. And that was always really important to me. So I always put a very large emphasis in making sure that I went both in September and February. Brands knew that each season I would be there, and I was very consistent with it. I feel like it did help. I mean, it took a lot of time, but now, people know I do it every season and I'm consistent with it. But yeah, I feel like every season we've gone, I come back being more motivated and hungry for the next season. And I know that it can have an opposite effect on people. Some people come back and they're like, I'm never doing that again. I do not like it. And that's totally fine too. But you just have to figure out what's best for you and what's best for your brand. For me, I like doing it. It's a lot of work. I mean, it's draining, but I want to be really selective too. And I'm at the point now where I can be a little bit more selective and not feel like I have to go to everything, and be okay with not being at every event. But yeah, that took a lot of training on my part too, because in the very beginning, you're so excited to be invited to everything that you are making yourself go to everything. And that's when you're really drained by the end, because you have 30 things on your calendar and you're trying to figure out when you can eat lunch too. It's just a lot.
Are you kind of tired of Fashion Week experience, or is it as cool as you thought when you first started?
I think this season, during August, we had a really chill August and we were at home and Jadyn was traveling, but we had such a busy summer. We had so many trips and I was so happy to be home in August and just be on my couch. We started getting really organized with the YouTube. Things were picking up as far as the items that we had been wanting to work on that we just didn't have time to do when we're traveling. And so I feel like I had a lot of anxiety going into Fashion Month because I knew I was going to be gone for another 3 weeks from Jadyn, and all the fall activities and festivals that we like to do doesn't start until we get back, which is in October. And so just feeling like I was going to lose a month of that in September was a little overwhelming for me. But when I'm there and when I'm seeing the progress and seeing the jobs we booked, I feel like it just came full circle for me when I was there, and I realized why I started doing this in the first place, and was so excited to be invited to some of my very favorite shows. And when you're in there realizing like why you're doing it, why you're covering it for your audience. I was at a show, I was at Chanel, and I was sitting there thinking, like, before the show started, I used to be at my full-time office job and literally started this as a hobby, and had no idea that when I started I was going to be at the Chanel show years later. So it really brought it back to perspective for me, and just being so thankful. Like, yeah, it's tiring, but I could be working a 9-to-5 job and not doing what I love. So I think you just really have to keep in perspective. And yeah, it's tiring and a lot of work, but I love doing it. And at the end of the day, I would love to be doing this way more than my marketing job before and what Anthony was doing before. You just always have to realize that if you're doing what you love, like, it doesn't seem like work. When you work for yourself, I feel like you always think that you could be doing more. So I think that's also what's exciting about it too. What did you feel like going into Fashion Month from a perspective of not taking photos but being more the photographer and like the business behind it?
It's hard because when we were home in August and doing projects, it's hard to set those projects aside and then
Really
peace
quick,
out for like a
you
month.
do look really handsome right now, just like chilling
Is it
up.
because I washed my hair?
I don't know, maybe it's the background with the cactus. I don't know, it feels like a little bit movie-esque, but continue. Just now you're trying too hard, so you just lost it.
So it's hard for me to push things aside for a month and then like come back and get back into it. But I think it was good. I mean, I had fun. I think every season you become more efficient and it's less stressful, and we know, okay, this is what we learned, this is what we're not doing, this is what we're doing. And so in the beginning you're kind of a little stressed because like, oh man, getting right back into it and the traveling and everything. But once you're there, then it's all gravy.
Yeah.
Are you buying all the outfits you're wearing in Fashion Week? If you did, we'd be broke.
Definitely not. I mean, when I first did Fashion Week, I did, I never got borrows from designers. I never had that relationship yet. So in the very beginning, it was a lot of planning for my outfits because I had to bring everything myself and I had to buy my own outfits. But now, because so many of the brands send me the current collection to wear to the show, which is good for street style, but it's also good when you go to the show, you can do the photo call and you're supporting the designer, you're supporting the brand. And I always really like to wear the brand as much as possible. Sometimes the samples might not have my original pick, and in that case then I'll wear maybe one of the pieces they send, but I won't wear the whole item. I really just have to stay really true to my style during Fashion Month. And of course there's brands that want me to wear something that maybe might not be my entire style, but it's a piece they're pushing for the month. But I have to say no to things like that because it can be really easy to get lost in your style because so many people are asking you to wear different things. So if they have my pick, I'll wear it. If not, then I'm pretty upfront with saying if it doesn't fit me correctly, or if it's not my first pick, then I can't guarantee that I'll wear it to the show. So I think just having that transparency is really important to the brand. And usually I'll do a fitting. Usually I don't do that many fittings because with certain brands, they already know how they fit me, and if they have my pick, I know it's fine to be sent to my hotel. But sometimes if I need an alteration or I want to make sure that something fits me very correctly, I'll go in for a fitting for the brand a few days before the show. But I do like to pack all of my bags, my shoes, all my accessories, turtlenecks, things I need to pair with different items. I bring a lot of neutrals, blazers, slacks, so that way I can mix into different items that I'm getting sent. And also I'll just bring some cool outfits that I have that, maybe I want to shoot them. I just bring a few extra pieces that I really love and are cool, but it's really hard to pre-plan outfits before you go just because you're getting a lot of pieces sent to you at the hotel when you get there. How would you say packing goes for it?
It's like my least favorite.
It's terrible.
Because I have 4 suitcases, 2 carry-ons, and you have to pack it in a way to where each suitcase is like 50 pounds each, and then you have shoes, and you can't do all shoes in one suitcase because then your blazers and pants and whatever doesn't fit in other suitcases. It's a whole process.
And I usually buy items too when I'm there. I always wait till I get to Europe to shop for any designer items that I've had my eye on. So I came back with 3 bags, 2 pairs of shoes. I did a little bit of damage in
then
Europe.
people send you stuff, and then
I got quite a few bags gifted, so I brought back so many items.
We had to buy another suitcase, so we had 7 suitcases.
It was insane because other than that, it was don't buy a suitcase and ship it back. That would have been really costly, but also nerve-wracking if it doesn't get there, and I'd have to track it was just better to buy a cheapy suitcase. I had quite a bit of beauty products come back with me too. Like there was just a lot. So yeah, I don't want to pack for a trip anytime soon again. I'm like, I want to be at home. All right, that is it for our Fashion Month Q&A. Hopefully it answered a lot of the questions you guys had sent me. If you have any additional questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below. Also, don't forget to check out the giveaway details in the description. Make sure you follow them to be entered to win. And if you're not already subscribed, please subscribe. Would love to keep in contact with you guys and love having you stay tuned for my next videos. All right.